Okay. Well, it's been a while. It's been a while. Been away from the airwaves, from social media, podcasting for quite some time now. So I've been doing some thinking, reflecting, and trying to see how Premier Media could come back with the bang. But in life, I just wanted to get up here and say, when you wait for the right time for things to be perfect, to have the background set up nicely, to have the lighting, and to have the audio and all that stuff perfect. Most of the time, you just be waiting and you have a perfect excuse not to get something done. So I've been telling myself since December last year, like, hey, I need to get back on the show, do this podcast and just make some noise out there. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's so much going on. You have the whatever is going on in Western Province, the Barodse, I don't know what that is. And you have the fighting going on in Ukraine, which most people don't even talk about anymore these days. And then you also have what is happening presently in Palestine and Israeli occupation force trying to take over and things like that. There is a bombing of the Iranian embassy and Iran also responding back in kind to Israeli. So there's just so much to talk about. There's just so much to talk about. And then I sit here, I'm like, hey, I'm waiting for the perfect time. So at least, my background that I was using needs to be aligned nicely and just to get everything perfectly. I'm like, this was in December, planning for the show. January, February, keep saying the same thing. March, and now it's April. So I'm like, hey, no. In order to get something done, you just have to get up and get going and get started. So you don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start and eventually you become perfect. And anyway, there's no such thing as perfection. You can always improve your best. So I wanted to get up here and just put a few things in perspective and talk about Premier Media. We last did significant programming back in 2022. And now it's in 2024 and nothing much has been done. Again, the excuses of no, I need to make sure the condenser is just about right so it captures the sound, the lighting and the background and everything. We have the audios, we have the promos, we have the clips and all that stuff. But you see, time keeps passing and then I keep talking about the same thing and nothing gets done. So I'm like, hey, no. Let me just hop on and say something. So uh, it's more like a representation of life where you want things to be perfect and you want things to be aligned just exactly. But that day will never come when you hope that things will just be perfect. So that's why I said, no, let me get going because there are a lot of shows that been planning in the background, Premier Media. And we have some new personalities that you'll be seeing, and then some old personalities that have moved on to other things. But hopefully, we continue to preach the same message, empowerment of African people to ensure that at least we are well positioned to defend ourselves because the primary objective of education is to defend and to protect and to preserve yourself. So you can have all this education, but if somebody comes and says they throw a bomb in Lusaka or wherever, how are you going to defend yourself? You may be an accountant, you may be a veterinarian, you may be a politician, but when you cannot defend, you cannot ensure the survival or the continuity of your people, which means you're failing. So this is why I think when we talk about education, education has to be looked at differently, especially for the African people, because you are seeing the United States exerting its force on other countries. Obviously, you talk about democracy, but you find that Malcolm X would say that people speak in both sides of their mouth. They will tell you this, but they do this. So this is why it's very important to understand as African people that you have to be in a position where you can protect yourself, not just to depend on other people to protect you. You have to be able to protect yourself. This is why you find that countries that have got the military might to say, we have this and that, you find that those countries are feared. They are not pushed around. So there's a lot of bullying going around in this world, but the only reason it happens is because there are others who can enforce their will on others, while others are not in a position to defend themselves. So when you look at the African continent in general, can the African continent defend itself from the US? Obviously, the answer is no. Why? The US has got the big military equipment. Why can't the African countries defend themselves? Because they do not have the mighty equipment that is able to bring about all kinds of confusion. So might makes right. Obviously, we talk about democracy, this and that, but at the end of the day, the reality of things is that there is a famous book, The Prince, in which Machiavelli talks about it's not how things are, but how things should be, or it's not how things should be, but it's how things are. So I think realizing and accepting the reality of how things are, it makes a big difference in life. So there is just so much to talk about politics. So this is international politics. And there's also a lot of what I've heard about Western province people wanting to succeed. I think sometimes people just need to put on their big boy pants and sort of face things for what they are, not what people want them to be. Zambia is one country, and obviously there's no such thing as the Barotse land. The Barotse land may have existed back then, all right? Just like the Mwata Kazembe kingdom existed back then, just like the Shaka Zulu kingdom existed back then, when the Mdapa kingdom existed back then. So I think it's unrealistic in this day and age for somebody to say, no, we want to succeed, when I think if you look at the Zambian history, there were acts of parliament that put an end to some of this noise that some of us hear about, that make certain people feel more like they are more important than others. At the end of the day, this nonsense about succeeding is just a waste of time. People need to understand that together, that's when people make progress, not about splitting and trying to create confusion just to make points which some of us don't even know what type of point is being put across. We as a people, Zambia gained its independence collectively, Northern Rhodesia, in 1963 for the Olympics when they were held. Northern Rhodesia emerged as Zambia. So it's the only country that went in under a different name. And that when the Olympics were concluded, it was called Zambia. So we cannot base when you look at the British government, first of all, the British government had no authority to be in Zambia in the first place. So the Berlin Conference, which took almost four months and some more planning in 1884, where parts of the whole Africa was segmented into these countries that we see. That was done because the Europeans did not want to fight among themselves. Now, we have a few people who have benefited from some of these arrangements because they can go to European countries and send their children there to school and things like that. To them, they feel, oh, this system is working out for me, therefore I have to maintain and be happy with this arrangement. At the end of the day, this is part of the reason that I think we see in Africa, where some people think they are more equal than others. At the end of the day, we only have one country, and that country is Zambia. And people have to accept that, not make unnecessary noise. It's like the Mwenemtapa kingdom, which extended into Zambia, comes up and say, let's say some people from Zimbabwe say, hey, the Mwenemtapa kingdom at one time extended all the way into Zambia, so we want the kingdom to be restored. Obviously, most of you will say, no, this is a bunch of nonsense. It was a kingdom quite all right back then, but now this is a different era. This is a different time and space. People have to be dynamic. People have to move with the times and say, okay, in this day and age, what can we do to make ourselves into a stronger nation, stronger country, not necessarily bringing about confusion? You have the United States, which has states which are operating as one. Kentucky, Texas, Florida, Indiana, Nebraska, Georgia. These are individual states which qualify to be countries on their own, but they're working under one banner, the United States. They're states that are united. The same can be said for Europe. Germany, France, Italy, the Czech Republic, and all these other countries, they are called the European Union because they realize that when they are working as one, they are much stronger. There is power in numbers. Now, when you look at Zambia, people want to say, okay, no, for political reasons or just to make some noise. I think it's not necessary in this time and age because there were different kingdoms that existed at the time. So it's like the Undi kingdom, the Ukalonga kingdom, the Mwenemtapa, the Matakazembe, the Chitimukulu, all those people can come up and say, oh, yes, our kingdom extended in this area, therefore we want to get back. I think we'll just waste time as a people when we start looking at things that just don't even add value. This is why you find that the United States are states that are working together. Europe, those are states that come together to work to form the European Union. So what we need to be pushing for in Africa is the United States of Africa. That may be a tall task, but it's possible because looking at the regions, Southern Africa, East Africa, and all that stuff, Africa is rich in terms of its vastness of languages. I'm happy, especially in East Africa, where they have Swahili. Swahili as the sort of official language. You can be in Kenya, you in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Tanzania. Those countries, they speak one language, which is good. When you look at the northern part of Africa, Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, all these other countries, they speak Arabic. Why? Because it makes them more united. You can be in Tunisia today, you go in Morocco, you go in Egypt, in Libya, you're able to communicate because communication is the key. Not looking for ways, how can we bring about division? This is why they say, divided we fall, but united we stand. It's important for people just to take some time and reflect on some of these things that may, it's actually, let me put it, it's a waste of time to embark on some of these things that just don't make sense, especially in this time and age. Because when you look at these other industrialized countries, they are working as one. So I had a question posed to me that, hey, you see your African chiefs or kings, whatever you want to call them, they were selling other people into slavery. So you find that the Europeans would come and make some side deals with some of these people. Hey, I'll give you ABC, I'll give you ABC. So as long as it benefited those chiefs or whoever, they saw it fit to let go of some of their people. The same can be said today when you look at some of these politicians, if they can get a contract to finance their companies or whatever they're working on, to them, they can care less about the others. So what was happening then, in a way, still happens now. Some people still say, oh no, we can send our children to Europe. It benefits us. But the average people, you find that in these places, people are told to make noise. Oh no, you can succeed. No, no, there's no such thing. At the end of the day, people have to see what is it that we can do to work as one and to bring about progress so that at least we can defend ourselves when the other countries who have got the military might trying to impose certain things. Because if you are not in a position to get your act together, especially the African countries, then we'll forever be talking about these same things, day in, day out. Why can't we steal a page from Europe, which has united? Why can't we steal a page from the United States? Because this is what makes it more powerful. It's because it leverages a lot of expertise. It harnesses a lot of people expertise in Kentucky, in Virginia, in Maryland, in Texas, in California. They all work under one banner as the United States. A tiny country which has got 20 million in Zambia, and people want to create some sort of confusion. I think it's not necessary, it's not wise, and it's wrong, and it's not in anyone's best interest. It only helps to save a few disgruntled people who just want to create confusion. But at the end of the day, the people have to understand that unity is what brings about progress. We need to figure out how can we use the differences that we have among ourselves. You could come from Eastern Province, like yours truly, or you come from the wrong side of the country, which is the northern part where you have a lot of people who talk too much, my Bemba cousins. But we are able to work as one, not necessarily how can we bring about confusion? No. Zambia is one country. It's a beautiful country. It can be one of the best countries. I was shown a video by a friend of mine just 2 days ago, I think it was yesterday, about North Korea. North Korea is a country which has the most sanctioned country in the world. Look up North Korea and you see how developed it is. What excuse do we have as African people? Obviously, we know what the French are doing in West Africa, trying to control. And you have these countries, I mean, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, and these others. They don't practically see anything wrong with the CFA franc. We have brave people in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and now the new president in Senegal, who are doing what is right for the masses. But these other former French colonies, Congo, Brazzaville, Gabon, and Guinea. These countries don't see anything wrong with what the French have done. In fact, Guinea had to request for more French troops just a few years ago. You see, Niger and Burkina Faso and Mali, they're kicking out the French, but others feel, no, let's try to concentrate and bring more French soldiers to help us. The West will never solve Africa's problems. There is no European country which has developed through the nonprofit sector. It's people using their intellect, using their resources, using their minds to come together, to realize that they have got one vision, one goal, one aim, one destiny. This is basically what the Honorable Marcus Garvey was talking about back then. When Black people realize, or African people realize, that they are joined by common heritage as African people, or the Akibulans, which is the proper name for Africa, working together as one, and you have all the natural resources under your feet, the oil, the diamond, the gold, the coltan, the cobalt, the copper, all the elements, all the minerals, all the resources, which the rest of the world want. When you see the confusion in the DRC Congo, it's mostly because of what it has. So Africa needs to realize, especially the younger people, need to do things different from our grandfathers who just danced to the tunes of the European settlers who just demanded, hey, do this, and they did that because they were benefiting. They were, as long as vakuchekelako, then you want to, ibintu very child. I mean, that's not the right way to proceed. There has to be a few brave men and women who say, no, enough is enough. I admire very much Dr. Kwao Chiombori for what she's done, Professor Pierre Lumumba, and the young Pan-Africanists. I mean, there are a lot of people who are doing great things. We have to keep on the fight to ensure that Africa is a country. I know it's a continent. Africa is a country for its people. The resources for Africa are used for African people, not a few people who constantly are being undermined, and because they can get a contract or they build a house in Europe and they feel like, oh, they can sacrifice. I mean, look at the embarrassment, the Nigerian president who was okay with getting 80 cents on the uranium, but the same amount of uranium, Canada was selling $200 per kg, and they were getting 80 cents. And the guy was okay because he was getting, obviously, pocketing whatever he was pocketing. This is the type of mindset that keeps Africa backwards. So as African people, we have to understand that the only way we can improve is to utilize that outsiders. Obviously, there's need to collaborate with the outsiders, but it has to be done on Africa's terms. For instance, the United States has got what it's called the US foreign policy. The first priority for the US foreign policy is the US. Just like if China comes and does what it does in African countries, the first priority for China is the Chinese people. Now, what is the first priority for the African people? African people needs to have leaders who are able to negotiate, who are able to put the needs of the masses the forefront. This is what we're seeing, I think, in the West African countries which have military rulers, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, where the leaders have come. Those are not politicians. There's a difference between a politician and a leader. Those are the leaders who wants to prioritize the needs of the people to ensure that at least they are able to benefit from the resources that they have. So politics, we'll be talking more about some of these things and getting into detail. We'll remove all the gloves to make sure that at least we can just face things directly. Because if you have to solve a problem, you have to clearly define what the problem is. Define the problem for exactly what it is. Then you'll be able to apply a solution. So the education system that we have should be in a position to address the challenges. Right now, there's the issue of load shedding. There's the issue of drought. Now, the question becomes, what has been put in place to ensure that cycle is not continued? So that is the type of education, because education should maintain the continuity of a people. It's not about getting a degree and you work for someone else, because mostly the premise is that for most people think when you get educated, then you have to go and get a job somewhere else. So education has to be fashioned in such a way that it does not assume somebody else will hire me. You create the environment that you want. If you have to create a society for African people where African people are respected, because right now African people, I mean, we are at the bottom of everything else. So how do we change that? Is first of all how we conduct ourselves. We have to conduct ourselves with dignity and with respect. So when you let me conclude by saying, you see, in the 60s, you saw the civil rights movement. What they did in the 60s is those people would wear suits. They were proud of who they are. So in the 60s, you find that most of those had Afro. Unfortunately, my hair has disappeared. But anyway, we'll be able to capture it someday. But in the 60s, the civil rights movement was under the theme, I'm Black and proud. When they were marching, if you watch those 60s marches, people had the afros, they would dress up in a suit. There was no sagging, not matako yalipanja halfway. How do you expect people to respect you when you yourself, you can't respect yourself? People can clearly see this guy is a fool. So imagine in a situation where you're going, everybody else dresses up smart. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a suit, but you dress up professionally and you go to have a conversation with someone, because the first impressions is important. Because people look at how you present yourself, like, oh, okay, this person looks, they know what they're doing, they carry themselves well, but not really. People look something else. I mean, they want to run away from who they are. In the 60s, people were black, proud. I'm Black and proud. James Brown, say it loud. I'm Black and proud. But now our people have been confused. I know a lot of people may try to throw stones, especially what I'm going to say now, is that the ideal image for beauty, especially for our people, has been misplaced, because most people, they look at to look European is a symbol of beauty. Let me say the same thing differently. You see, there are others who understand that the world population, the African population is very, very high. So they figure out, if they come to you and say, hey, my friend, osankala na mana maningi, don't have so many kids. Most people will say, you can't tell me what to do with my wife. I have the right to enjoy my woman, or I have the right to enjoy my husband. People will protest because you cannot tell people not to have kids. But if you figure out a way and say, hey, I think we have to promote the girl child. Let's promote the girl child. Make a lot of noise about girl child, and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with promoting a girl child, but the plan still remains the same. When a woman is more educated, she is less likely to have more kids. That's how they get you. So if somebody say, hey, let's send these girls to school, because you know that when they get to school, they have a career, they are less likely to be busy bouncing kids back and forth. It's the same thing. It's telling people, hey, not to have so many kids, but you just do it diplomatically. So it's the same thing when you say the symbol of beauty for a black woman is a white woman. Most people protest. Let's unpack it. Have you ever seen a white person wearing an afro? No. But when you have convinced the people that to be black is to lack, is to be inadequate, is to be not beautiful, not intelligent. Because the media has constantly attacked blackness, like not smart enough. They make fun of the hair, the nose, the lips, and just, hey, the skin, the complexion. So psychologically, most people want to run away from that. Because if somebody tells you that you're black, most people feel, oh, no, I'm not black. So what do people do? They want to bleach the skin a little bit so that they cannot look black, or they don't want to be reminded of black. Oh, let's put on this wig. The wig is always taking after the likeness of a white woman. So if you tell someone that the ideal symbol for beauty is to look like a white woman, most people protest, but look at what they do. It's exactly like telling a woman, a family, don't have so many kids. They will protest. But if you say, hey, let's send this girl child to school, it's the same thing. So at the end of the day, as a people, we have to understand and own who we are and what we are, and appreciate how we look like and what we are, because you are created in the image of God. I am created in the image of God. I look different. I accept that my hair is thinning. Well, I can do surgery to fix whatever. Or I can just say, hey, what the heck? I'm still healthy. I'm still strong. I think I still got it. I still got it. I'm not going to waste so much time trying to fight that. God, or the Creator, had a reason why I was born this way and look the way I look, just like you. There's a reason why you look the way you look. You have the hair that you have, but that doesn't mean that people don't have to look beautiful. Oh, of course, those women I like the losses they have that. Is it Mississippi or whatever it's called? Or you can mawig, whatever. You can still look good with your hair. Braid it differently. What? Are there white people who have afros or are crazy about uh, African hair? No. It's unfortunate most of our people spend a lot of time trying to run away from who they are. Why do they run away? It's because Black has been paired with degradation, poverty, crime, dilapidation, just everything bad. Look at the word black in the dictionary. That's what causes a lot of people wanting to run away because they don't want to be associated with that. So they subconsciously try to escape who they are. You ask some of these people who are here, African American. I'm not African. You look at the person, the person is African, but they don't see it. So that is some of what slavery did, because it caused our people to lose awareness of who we are and what we are. So we'll be exploring all these topics, talking about love. So let me end. Okay, we'll talk about love, politics, and just everything else. Those who want to migrate to live in the diaspora, those who are in the diaspora want to go back home. It's it's just crazy. I mean, it's when you are in the diaspora, you wish, oh, you can be that side. And then when you're on that side back home, say, oh, I wish you can be that side. It's just like it's more like what the Bible talks about. It's like nothing under the sun will please you. You will never be pleased if you have 10,000 in the bank. You wish you had 20. When you have 20, you wish you had 50. When you have 50, you wish you had 100. When you have 100, you wish you had 200. So it's the matter of realizing that nothing is going to please you. You just have to take a stand and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So let's talk about love. So the funny thing about love is that love is an instinct that is in all of us. So there's what is called the death instinct and the life instinct. The life instinct expresses itself in form of love, and the death instinct expresses itself in form of hate. There are people that you see them, you just feel like, oh, you feel like you just don't like them. So in other ways, there's a good and bad in all of us. Heaven and hell is within you, good and bad. So the life instinct expresses itself in goodliness, wanting to help others, wanting to spread lovely things. The hate instinct expresses itself in people who just don't like umfwiti. Because they don't like people, other people. Somebody is progressing. That's the hate instinct, which is coming from the death instinct. So those attributes, we all have them in ourselves. So this is why it's very important to watch yourself, because sometimes you can bring out the devil out of you. The good book talks about power of the tongue. Watch what you say, because God created everything else by doing what? He just spoke. So this is why you have to guard your tongue, because your tongue can either make or it can break you. So love, it's something that we all want. But unfortunately, even the people who hate other people, they also want love. But the type of love that a person who is motivated by hate, subconsciously, they may not know it. For instance, if you come from Umfwiti, your family, unfortunately, Umfwiti, it doesn't necessarily have to be Umfwiti, but witchcraft is Umfwiti. People who hate, why do they hate? It's envy, jealous, greedy, wanting things just to be theirs. When they see other people are doing certain things, or people are getting married, they're in love, and everything is going well for their kids, some people get jealous because their kids' things didn't work out, so they just want to blow your high. That's a hate instinct. So you can tell people who have got love, and people who have got hate. People who are always wanting to prevent others from doing other things, always talking negative, always restricting, always preventing certain things. That person is motivated by hate. But the unfortunate thing is, even the people who are mostly motivated by hate, they also want to fall in love. But when a person who is motivated by that type of hate falls in love, they are going to love in the wrong way. This is why in most of these relationships, you find that somebody's getting beaten up. I'm beating you because I love you. So we're going to talk about all these things. Like I say, I've been taking some time to reflect and like, oh, let me get this microphone or this lighting and what. So I'm like, hey, time is moving. We got to get going. We got to just try to add some voice to the many things that are out there. But at the end of the day, the message is, in order for us as an African people to be taken seriously in this world, unity is the key. We have to make sure that at least we are working as one. And the only thing that is going to help us is when we have the right kind of love, because I talked about there's a wrong kind of love. Because when you have the wrong kind of love, you are going to love things in the wrong way. But we want people to love in the right way. When you love people in the right way, then everything else aligns nicely in the world. When things align nicely, then things work smoothly. They do not want to be the only one to get all the contract and steal all the money if you're a politician. Because it's working out for you, you're flashing money anyhow, when your people just don't even have just basic water to drink. Manzi chabe okoma kunt kulia bukwaso tu manzi. Okay, my Bemba, like my Bemba speaking people. Takulia fiena tu amenshi. I mean, my Bemba is terrible otherwise, but I mean, I'm trying. You can't blame me. I mean, I don't know Bemba. So we are getting back on the radio to make things happen. I'm just excited to be able to get back and just share some of these words of encouragement, words of wisdom, so that at least we can have a better country and a better Africa. So stay tuned, and I encourage you all to go to Premier Media, our YouTube and our Facebook, all our social media handles, like all our social media handles. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. I think we are also on whatever else is there, TikTok and Instagram. Like and share, because this is the channel where we speak truth to power. We're not afraid to speak the truth, because the thing is, when you say the truth, you find that some people are going to be pissed off. But that doesn't mean you should stop saying the truth. You have to say the truth. I'm a messenger who delivers the message. So you cannot hate the messenger for delivering the message, or you cannot hate your phone because there is a message that you don't like. No, no, no. I'm a gentleman. So I don't think if you look, there's anything to hate there. You can just love this guy. So at the end of the day, the truth shall set you free. And as a messenger of the truth, I present information which is designed to uplift, to inform, and to empower you, so that collectively as a people, we can begin to make meaningful, productive decisions that empower us as African people, so that at least our status in society and the world is that which commands respect. Not right now, we are at the bottom of the ladder of the racial groups. All the people look at Black people like, hey, these people have all the resources. What's the problem? this is what we'll be talking about. How do we redeem ourselves as a people? So that's what's up. Please subscribe until we meet again next time, which is soon. So subscribe again. Don't just watch and don't subscribe. Subscribe so at least you can be kept informed of the new programming and all the good stuff that's going to be coming up. So that's what's up. Bye for now. Peace.